Hey guys, thanks for hanging in there for the year hiatus that was me trying to satiate a whole bunch of demons in my closet. I had been doing a bunch of regular installments on tutorials, whether it's cats, horses, painting, drawing, whatever. I really had some really great aspirations for this channel, and I let chirpy birds in my ear and other people's commentary on how I was living my life interfere. I put all of my art aside, I put my tutorials down, and I focused on my job. And it took me a year to learn that that little people-pleasing habit made me really, really miserable. It made me very, very burnt out. And I wasn't making anybody happy trying to please everybody else and doing what everybody else thought was right. So my first bit of advice is, when you get chirpy birds that tell you your art isn't a real thing, and you're never going to make money at it, and it's a waste of time, don't listen to them. Please don't listen to them. Do what makes you happy. If your photography makes you happy, if your art makes you happy, if learning how to draw or do crafting makes you happy, then do what makes you happy. Just because you don't make $1 million at it, or you can't make a living at it, doesn't make it the wrong thing for you to do. Okay. That being said, last year, I packed up the tutorials, I packed up the art, put it on a shelf. My boss left. And I had a whole bunch of promises about there being a new boss that was going to come in and not saddle me with the restrictions of having to be responsible for everything that my boss was responsible for. That didn't necessarily happen. And being a responsible adult, I took everything onto my shoulders and had to make a lot of personal sacrifices on my own time and spend more and more time doing things that stress me out and don't necessarily make me happy. I didn't see a whole lot of rewards for all the sacrifices I was making, and I kept believing the chirpy birds that were promising that life would get better, life is going to get easier, it'll be worth it, it'll really, really, really be worth it. And a year later, it wasn't worth it. So I'm going back to what is the balance of my life, balancing my full-time job with my art. Alright, so that's that. Done with the 14 and 18-hour days, being somebody else's boss and working for somebody else. I'm going to spend a fair amount of time being my own boss and making myself happy. So we're back to doing this. Yeah. So if your art makes you happy, then do your art. If doing your photography makes you happy, do your photography. If you want to take long walks on the beach, take long walks on the beach and contemplate the meaning of the universe. Whatever makes you happy. Don't let other people's criteria for their own lives determine what should make you happy. Alright, so sometime back in February, I joined a group of local artists, and if you don't know where I'm located, I'm up in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, which is in southeastern Wisconsin. And the group is called Sheboygan Visual Artists. The reason that I was joined into that group is because I was spending 14, 16 hours at my job instead of being able to sit in the studio and create, make tutorials. I felt like I needed something to do. Otherwise, why have a studio? I've got all of these resources and all the space and all this stuff to do, and I'm not doing anything with it. So at least I was doing that. And so that gave me an outlet to show my work on a regular basis, an outlet and a peer group of people that I could go to, and some kind of outlet for my art. And I really recommend you guys look for your own outlets wherever they are, wherever you're living. If it's a coffee shop where you can show your artwork, if you just post on like a pegboard out in a grocery store that you want to get together with a bunch of photography friends. You know what? Do it. What do you got to lose? You might make a friend. So I got into a couple of shows, put my artwork up on the wall. First show I went to, this is the #1 question. What media do you work in? And I didn't think it was anything weird to say that when somebody would say, what media do you work in? And I would go, okay, well, let's start from the top. So I graphite, charcoal, color pencil, pastel. And by the time I hit pastel, they were looking at me real skeptical, and some of them walked away because I don't know if they thought it was just listing off medias that there are, or if they thought maybe I was full of shit. But up until this past show, or the current show, actually, everybody kind of just went, really? Okay. Well, the stereotype is that an artist works in one media, not 7 medias. They do one thing and that's it. So there's wildlife artists and wildlife photographers. They do wildlife photography. I do wildlife drawing, photography, paintings, artwork. I do behavioral studies. I'll teach classes. Whatever, really I feel like doing at the moment. And it wasn't until this last show that I showed up with 5 different media plus 3-day work, and people were like, you weren't kidding. you really, this is unbelievable. And it made me feel really, really, really good. And so all the naysayers and the little chirpy birds that were in my ear saying, you'll never do this, you'll never make money at it, you may be good at it, but it doesn't bring you any income, they all went away. Because there was some validation that I have something to bring to the table when it comes to other aspiring artists. And if it's experience or knowledge on how to do something, or just, hey, what were you going to do today? There's some interest there, and that was kind of rekindled my want to be able to do like a vlog, which is what I'm going to start doing. So there's that. There is a sad bit of news, and I've had to record this little bit about 16 times. Because I'm out of practice in doing real short, sweet, get to the point kind of things. And the other one is that when I bring it up, I have a tendency of getting a little emotional. I have been accused several times of wearing my emotions on my sleeve, and you know what? Sorry, that's part of who I am. There is some reason for people being hard asses and having a wall in front of them, and then I just can't do that all the time. In April of this year, my mom passed away. It was really hard to deal with. It was kind of out of the blue, but kind of not. Her health had slipped a little bit, and her actual passing was in the midst of her recovering from a stroke. So there has been that hiccup, and that also became a very big turning point in my decision about how I wanted to continue down the road, whether it was my life at work or my life online with my art. On a more positive note, there is a consignment shop that opened up in June in town here, and up there I've got Prince originals and some holiday ornaments that I've been making. I decided to make ornaments last year. That he's got up for sale. Now this consignment shop is more along the lines of like, think of a thrift store that specializes in art. I watched him talk to a gentleman that walked in, and he had made the comment that this was his contribution to the community. And I kind of take that with a grain of salt, because if it was his contribution to helping the community, he wouldn't be taking the very steep commission that he takes out of sales. And when I price out my work, I try and give myself at least a minimum wage for what I'm making. When I started out, as do a lot of artists when they start out, you really, really undercharge and undervalue your own work. I've been doing this for 10 years, so when I say I want $500 for a painting, it's because I put that much time, effort, and resources into that painting that I think it merits that $500 price tag. I'm not price gouging, but when I turn around and sell it at this consignment shop, I'm making 60% of that, which means I could probably put it on Etsy for far less, sell it, and take all of it home and undervalue myself rather than making it look like I'm still making $500 on that painting. There is some pluses and minuses. Obviously, the 40% cut that he takes out of sales is a minus. But the pluses are that I don't have to spend time digging up a show. I don't have to travel that show. I don't have to set up that show. I don't have to scout out that show. And instead of it being up for 3 days on a weekend, it's up 7 days a week, well, 6 days a week. And it's up for anywhere from 10 to 11 hours a day where anybody can walk in, take a look at it, buy it, and walk out of the store with it. That's positive. And it really was the original reason why I was like, yeah, I'd like to try this out. It is a very limited base for your customer base because it's everybody in Sheboygan and maybe travelers that are coming in and out of Blue Harbor. So I'm still kind of limited on that price point where this is a lower income community. This isn't Whitefish Bay, it's not Wauwatosa, it's not Chicago. I'm not going to get the price point that I necessarily price my stuff out at. So if I was to jack my prices up to account for that 40% take that he does, my $500 painting would probably be close to $900. And I am not going to be able to sell a painting for $900 in Sheboygan that I would normally price out at $500. That's the reality of it, and that's one of the things that I want to be able to bring to artists who are looking at how I figure out how to price my stuff, where I'm looking to vend my stuff, is what determines how much I sell my work at and where I'm selling it. So we'll get into that as we go through the day. The other thing that I'm not necessarily really tripped out about with this consignment shop is he picks out what goes in this shop, and I have no say in the display. So, like, the photography he has in a car display. Okay, that's fine. I have no problem with that. The paintings he hung on the wall, that's fine too. I recently gave him, it was recently, and we're talking like 2 months ago, I gave him some 8x10s that were prints and framed, ready to go out to hang, ready to go out the door, hang them on your wall, whatever, that I had in the gallery at a show. And they are currently sitting on like the inside of what would be like a living room or a foyer table in the middle of the table. They're not really on the wall where you would hang portraits. And if you're not knowing where that they are in his shop, you're never going to see them. That's not some place you would look for art. Maybe sculpture, but not 2D art. So, and in his defense, he does have a lot of stuff in his shop. He has very limited wall space as far as it's not an infinite amount of space that he has in his wall. So I get that, but being the person that's trying to get that stuff out the door, there's no reason anybody would look underneath the top of a table for photography, especially stuff that's framed and ready to go on a wall at head height, not at knee level. So when you don't have say in the displays, like good case in point, last thing I dropped off was some Christmas ornaments. So while I haven't been doing tutorials, I've still been busy, so let's see if we can get a good shot of it here. It's a lot of light. So I did these little ornaments, okay? To cover my cost and time, I priced them out at $15. To make up for his 40% commission, they're priced out at $25 up at his shop. When I send them out the door, when I put them on display, they hang on cute little displays so you can see what's in them and you can see all the lighting that happens because they're glittery and shiny and shiny. So there's some sale appeal. When I send them out the door, however, they're put in a plastic bag so that the plastic doesn't get scratched. They get a business card with them and a price tag and any contact information, so if anybody wants to get another one, they know how to get a hold of me. That is not a display. That is, here, take this home. That is how they're up for sale in his shop. Again, that's not going to help them move out the door because it just looks like a bag of plastic with something in it, and it's got glitter. If I were in his shop and I looked at that, I literally wouldn't even buy my own stuff because it doesn't seem to be appealing. There's a 30-day contract with the stuff that he's got on there, so once I give him something that's in the shop, he has it for 30 days before I can get it back. And if it doesn't sell, I can take it back, and I have taken a few things back, and I don't know that I would keep my stock totally in his shop. I think I may go back to vending now that I have less obligations at work. So time will tell what's going to happen with work and whatever kind of business contracts I have going on with this art consignment shop that's up on A Street. He does have a really great idea, and that is to do classes and like painting classes, art classes, and like they have the painting parties. I'm not really a painting party kind of person. If I'm going to teach somebody how to do art, I really want to give them enough information to be able to improve on their art, not paint because we want to get together with our friends and get hammered. I'm not really a social person as far as when I'm going up front and putting my energy into telling people how to do things. So I passed up the opportunity to do any painting parties, and I was approached about doing some classes, and I came up with an art fundamentals class. That was last month. It took him 3.5 weeks to even make a decision on what he was going to do with it, and then as of last week I called it quits and said, I'm done waiting, I have to move about my life, I'm not going to sit in limbo on this, I'm retracting my offer. I can't wait for however many artists that you want to have do classes. And I can see at this point why, if he had people that were willing to teach classes 6 months ago, why he did not, or were not able to keep them on contract. I hate to say this, but we all have lives and we have other obligations. If you're going to putter around with whatever you want to do with your plans, people are going to move on. It's just that easy. Okay, so what are we going to do with the vlog? The vlog. Okay, so on this page there are speed tutorials, there are speed demos, and there are various other silly things that I've got going on. They're all art related. I want them all to be informative, and eventually I want to be able to do a Q&A. The point of the vlog is to bring this into reality. The tutorials, speed demos, all of that, that's all cut and edited so that you guys have an idea of what happens. You know, what do I need to do next? What's the next process here? What am I looking at when I'm doing the layout? That's all edited. This I wanted to be more realistic. It became apparent when I did the last art show up at the SVA. And that's Sheboygan Visual Artists again. They have a Facebook page. And I have a Facebook page. We'll get to that later. But when I was up there with Rocco, even very experienced artists were just like, wow, you know, they were blown away. They didn't know what went into making something like that. Artists that are locked into doing one media don't know how to transition their work into another media. They're intimidated by another media. And I don't want that. If I'm the artist that breaks out and says, you can do it. You can be a pastel artist, or you can be an acrylic artist and go into pastels. In fact, a friend of mine, Jason Morgan, who does videos, recently got into pastels, and his work looks just as amazing in another media as it does in the original media that he was working in. He can go from paints to pastels, and it looks just as phenomenal. But I think working in a new media scares and intimidates a lot of artists, and so they're afraid of failing. At this point, don't be afraid to fail. Do it for fun. Do it for the experience. Do it to learn. Do it to better yourself. So if you are an artist that does drawing and you want to learn how to paint, look at the painting tutorials. We'll go over all the brushes. If you've got questions, color mixing, we'll go over it. Ask me questions. That's what I'm here for. Like last year, I went in, I tried doing something that was small. I wanted to do a small price point idea. So if I do a fair, and that's another thing I want to get into, is like people don't necessarily know what all goes into when you're vending at an event. If it's an art and craft fair, if it's an art show, if it's you're getting into a gallery, people don't know how much work goes into not just making that art, but getting your art out of the studio and into a gallery or out to a show, how much time and energy is invested in that. and money, oh my god. There are booth fees, there's jury fees, there's travel fees. God, if you're out of your normal home range, you have to pay for a hotel. And when people are going around a fair, they don't know that. They don't even care. They're looking at what you're charging, and new artists are scared to put their work out there because they're scared of what people say. And I'm sorry, but people are going to be jerks. They will. I've had people get up in my face and yell at me about how I'm a hack. And if that's what they want to believe, they can believe that I'm a hack. They weren't in the studio for me for 25 hours while I was working on this piece. They weren't here when I was doing the reference shots. I'll take you along to a horse show. We'll do horse shows. We'll do zoos. We'll do wildlife sanctuaries. Equipment talks. Scouting out shows. You know, all this stuff. There's so much stuff that goes into being an artist day to day that I don't think everybody knows. I think a lot of people don't know it. And I don't think anybody's really doing anything with it. I mean, here's a good laugh. Pokemon Go came out 3 months ago, 4 months ago. I totally lost track of when that came out. But there are these stations that are devoted to this game. And because the game is what it is, 3 months later, there's only so much gaming you can do on the same game, even though it's a virtual reality game. And why are we still doing episodes on it? But they can still, after 3-4 months, do a daily episode, and it's not necessarily the same thing. And that's a video game. That is a freaking video game. Art is something that's been going on for hundreds and thousands of years, and nobody's ever walked anybody through this day to day. Has anybody ever done a reality show on Bob Ross? No. But yet we have, you know, we have The Apprentice, and we have all these Survivor, and all these other crap shows. Okay, cool. Guess what? I'm going to be the jerk that now walks into the Milwaukee Zoo with my cell phone on a selfie stick so that you know where I'm going, so I can say, hey, we're going to go shoot bears, and this is what I'm looking at when I'm shooting a bear. And maybe the bears aren't receptive. Maybe they spend all day sleeping and we wind up shooting something else that turns out to be totally cool. I'm still sitting on over 2 gigs worth of top photos from trips and just stuff that I want to make into art that we can do. Tons of art supplies and different medias. Different ideas for little incidental merchandising things. Like last year I came up with the idea of doing ornaments. So it was something small. Okay, there's really nothing small in doing crafting. And there's a difference between crafting and doing fine art crafts. And there needs to be that delineation when we're talking about what you want to do with your art. Because if you do fine art and then you decide to do crafts, you're going to have a little bit of a weird audience. This is kind of a crafty thing that I did, okay? But at the same time, it's not bulky, it's not a wood block. I like things that if it's a fine art thing and it's crafty, it's kind of delicate. That's a good word for it, is delicate. In doing that, I came up with the idea that I can go multiple seasons. You can do like something like fall. By the way, this is really cool. I went to Michael's one day, and they had these cute little things that look like tiny little pumpkins. Oh my god, tiny pumpkins! And then I found a paper punch that punches paper that looks like little oak leaves, and I thought, oh, that'll be really cool, and I could hang that on my desk. And I haven't really got done with this one, but it looks like a little pumpkin patch with falls. It's very fall themed, and I haven't quite figured out where I'm going to go with this, but it makes a nice desktop kind of festive thing without destroying your whole office. Last year's theme for ornaments was dogs and, or not, no, that's this year. Last year was horses and dragons. And so I had a few of these that I made just for the challenge of doing them, because I wanted to try something new. And I've got a few horses left, so we'll do a few more horses. This year is dogs, so here we got a Dalmatian. I haven't figured out what I'm going to do with this little guy. I've got big cats, so we'll find out what I can do with that. But the possibilities are endless. What do you guys want to do? I mean, seriously. Possibilities are endless. We could go to the zoo one day. We could sit in the studio and we can talk. We can do video editing. We can do photography editing. I mean, let's not make this boring. I could do the same thing every day and get paid minimum wage, or I can make up whatever we're going to do for the day. We could go to DC and see if we could find that maned wolf, because I drove all the way to DC to go to the National Zoo to photograph a maned wolf that wasn't there. Anyway, so that's the point of the blog. I want to get back into doing videos every day. I want to get back into doing some 5-minute tutorials, and I want to get back into talking to you guys. What do you want to do? And please, let's not boil this down to, what pencils do you use? How do you sharpen your pencils? Let's get real. Like, if you guys want to know where I'm going to do photography and getting these reference shots, let's talk about that. What settings I'm at. Today it was a rainy, crappy, cruddy day. It was 40 degrees out and raining. If I had a reason, I probably would have gone out and done some photography, even in the 40-degree crappy rain. But you know what? Gotta get in the studio, gotta get this done, because I want to get back in my saddle here. So, what do you guys want to do? Possibilities are endless. Leave me comments, subscribe. If you want to, you can follow me up on Facebook. It's morninghawkcreations.com, and I'll check in with you guys tomorrow. Bye!